The discovery. Max's footsteps echoed through the gleaming corridors of the Galactic Dream, a luxurious cruise liner that carried the wealthiest of the galaxy between exotic planets. Today, the gentle hum of the ship's engines felt more like a prison to him. He pushed his cleaning cart, an unremarkable part of the ship's operation, while gazing out the nearby viewport at the star-studded void beyond. For him, this was not paradise. It was a reminder of everything he had lost. His recent divorce still stung, and the ache of missing his kids gnawed at him constantly. As laughter and chatter erupted from a group of passengers passing by, Max's reflection in the polished floor stared back at him, tired and worn. Another thrilling day in paradise, he muttered under his breath, the sarcasm heavy in his voice. He had hoped that working on the ship would provide a distraction, a chance to escape his reality, but each day became increasingly monotonous. "Hey, you missed a spot," one of the passengers shouted, knocking over a potted plant as he stumbled past. Soil spilled across the pristine floor, and Max fought back a retort, instead choosing to keep his head down as the revelers moved on, their amusement echoing down the hall. With a deep breath, he focused on cleaning up the mess, his movements mechanical and efficient. Hours passed in a blur of repetitive tasks. Just as he was finishing up, his comm device buzzed to life. It was Jorgen, his supervisor. "Max, I got a special job for you." Jorgen's gruff voice crackled through the device. "VIP suite on Deck 12 needs a deep clean. Passengers left in a hurry made a right mess." Max suppressed a groan. "I was just about to clock out, Jorgen. Can't someone else handle it? You're the best we've got, and this needs to be done right. Get to it." The line went dead before Max could protest further. He muttered under his breath as he gathered his supplies, his mood sinking further. The VIP suite was a stark contrast to the utilitarian crew quarters Max called home. Opulent furnishings and cutting-edge technology filled the spacious room, but it was clear a whirlwind had torn through it. Clothes were strewn about, empty bottles littered every surface, and an acrid smell of some alien narcotic hung in the air. "Rich folks," Max grumbled, shaking his head as he set to work. As he tidied up, he noticed something strange. A soft thump from the walk-in closet caught his attention. Frowning, he approached cautiously. "Hello? Anyone in there?" Silence met his question, but as he opened the door, his jaw dropped. Huddled in the corner, partially hidden behind hanging garments, was a child, a little girl no more than 5 or 6 years old. She stared up at him with wide, frightened eyes, and he was struck not only by her presence, but also by her skin, a vibrant, unmistakable blue. "Holy," Max breathed, quickly softening his tone. "Hey there, sweetheart. It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't respond, only shrinking further back into the corner. His mind raced. What the hell was an alien child doing hidden in a passenger's closet? He needed to report this, but something held him back. The fear in her eyes stirred a protective instinct within him, and memories of his own children flooded back. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently, reaching into his pocket for the protein bar he had been saving. He unwrapped it slowly, holding it out to the girl. "It's okay. Take it." After a moment's hesitation, she snatched the bar from his hand, devouring it ravenously. Max's heart clenched. How long had she been hiding here? "Can you understand me?" He tried again. "What's your name?" The girl tilted her head, making a series of soft clicks and whistles. It was clear she didn't speak any language Max recognized. Running a hand through his thinning hair, he weighed his options. If he reported this, she would be taken into custody, probably poked and prodded by scientists. But if he didn't, well, he'd be risking everything. "Ah, to hell with it," he muttered. He crouched down to meet her gaze. "Listen, I'm going to help you, okay? But you need to trust me and stay quiet." He held out his hand, and after a long moment, the girl took it. Her skin was cool to the touch, slightly rough in texture, and Max's mind whirled as he tried to formulate a plan. First things first, we need to get you out of here without being seen, he said more to himself than to her. He glanced around the room, and his eyes landed on a large laundry bag. It's not ideal, but it'll have to do. Max quickly emptied the bag, then turned back to the girl. I'm going to put you in here just for a little while. I promise I'll let you out as soon as it's safe. Her eyes widened in fear, but his gentle tone seemed to reassure her. With great care, he helped her into the bag, leaving it partially open so she could breathe easily. Okay, here we go, he whispered, hefting the bag onto his shoulder. His heart pounded as he left the suite, praying he wouldn't run into anyone on the way to the service quarters. Luck was on his side, and he made it to a seldom-used storage room without incident. Once inside, he quickly let the girl out of the bag. See, all safe now, Max said, trying to project a calm he didn't feel. Now, what am I going to call you? The girl blinked at him, her head tilted in curiosity. His eyes fell on a discarded magazine, its cover featuring a lush garden world. How about Bloom? You like that name? A small smile tugged at the corners of the girl's mouth, and she nodded. Bloom it is then, Max said, returning the smile. Now we've got to figure out how to keep you hidden and fed. This isn't going to be easy. Over the next few days, Max fell into a nerve-wracking routine. He would work his normal shifts, then sneak food and supplies to Bloom during his breaks. The girl was a quick learner, picking up basic gestures and even a few words, though she still couldn't speak any recognizable language. During one of these visits, Max nearly had a heart attack. He just entered the storage room when he heard footsteps approaching. Frantically, he signaled for Bloom to hide behind some crates. The door slid open, revealing Zoe, one of the ship's stewardesses. Her eyebrows rose in surprise. Max, what are you doing in here? Just restocking some cleaning supplies, he stammered, trying to look casual. What brings you to this neck of the woods? Zoe's eyes narrowed slightly. I thought I heard voices. You talking to yourself in here? Oh, you know me. Max forced a laugh. Always muttering about the job. Helps pass the time, right? Zoe's expression remained unconvinced. Well, don't let me interrupt your restocking. As she turned to leave, a small sneeze echoed through the room. Zoe froze, then whirled back around. What was that? Max's mind raced. Probably just the air recyclers. They've been acting up lately, he said quickly, but Zoe was already moving past him, her keen eyes scanning the room. Before Max could stop her, she'd spotted Bloom peeking out from behind the crates. Oh my God, Zoe gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Is that... Max, what the hell is going on? Max slumped against the wall, knowing the jig was up. It's a long story, he sighed, but I swear I'm just trying to help her. Zoe's eyes darted between Max and Bloom, who had emerged fully now, regarding the newcomer with cautious curiosity. You better start explaining, Zoe said, her voice low and intense, and it better be good, or I'm reporting this right now. Max took a deep breath and launched into the story of how he'd found Bloom and why he decided to hide her. As he spoke, he could see the conflict playing out on Zoe's face, duty warring with compassion. This is insane, Zoe said when he finished. Do you have any idea how much trouble you could be in? I know, Max replied, running a hand over his face. But what was I supposed to do? Turn her over to be treated like some lab specimen? Zoe bit her lip, then crouched down to Bloom's level. The girl shrunk back slightly but didn't flee. Hey there, Zoe said softly. I'm Zoe. It's nice to meet you. Bloom tilted her head, then slowly reached out to touch Zoe's hand, a look of wonder crossing the stewardess's face at the contact. She's so cold, Zoe murmured, looking up at Max with determination settling over her features. Okay, I'm in. What do you need? Relief flooded through Max. You'll help, really? Someone's got to make sure you don't get caught, Zoe said, brushing off her uniform. Besides, she glanced back at Bloom with a soft smile. We can't just abandon her. As they began to plan how to better care for and hide Bloom, Max felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He wasn't in this alone anymore, but a nagging voice in the back of his mind whispered that this was just the beginning of their troubles. Max's footsteps echoed through the empty corridor as he made his way to the storage room where Bloom was hidden. It had been a week since Zoe discovered their secret, and her help had been invaluable. As he approached the door, he heard soft laughter from inside. The sound made his heart skip a beat. He entered to find Zoe sitting cross-legged on the floor, playing a simple hand game with Bloom. The blue-skinned girl's eyes sparkled with joy, a stark contrast to the fear that had dominated her expression when Max first found her. "Look who's here," Zoe said with a smile, her joy infectious. "Bloom," Max said, grinning as he set down the bag of supplies he had managed to sneak away from the galley. "Nothing but the finest pureed nutrition packs for our little princess," he quipped, trying to ignore the warmth spreading through his chest at Zoe's smile. As they divvied up the food, Max couldn't help but marvel at how quickly their unlikely trio had bonded. Zoe's compassion and quick thinking had been a godsend, and he found himself increasingly drawn to her. "So," Zoe said between bites, "I've been doing some digging into the passengers who last occupied the suite where you found Bloom." Max leaned in, intrigued. "What did you find out?" "Well, they were registered under false names, but I managed to trace their travel patterns. They made several stops before boarding the Galactic Dream, but their point of origin was a planet called Orphan. Max frowned. Never heard of it. "It's a pretty secretive place, apparently known for advanced technology and a reclusive royal family." Zoe's eyes flickered to Bloom, who was contentedly munching on her food, oblivious to their conversation. "And get this, there was a coupe there just before our mystery passengers boarded." Max's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "You don't think?" Zoe nodded grimly. "I think our little Bloom here might be more than just a lost alien child." As if on cue, Bloom looked up at them, her skin suddenly shifting from its usual blue to a shimmering gold. Max and Zoe gasped in unison. "Did you see that?" Max breathed. Zoe nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. "Bloom, sweetie, can you do that again?" Bloom tilted her head, considering the request. With a look of concentration, her skin rippled through a rainbow of colors before settling back to blue. "Incredible," Zoe whispered. "Max, do you realize what this means? If she can change her appearance at will, she could hide in plain sight." Max finished, his mind racing with the possibilities and the dangers. Over the next few days, Max and Zoe worked tirelessly to uncover more about Bloom's origins while keeping her hidden. They took turns watching over her, using their respective positions on the ship to gather information and supplies. However, Max couldn't shake the feeling that danger was closing in on them. The royal revelation. The days passed in a blur of covert operations as Max and Zoe settled into a rhythm of secrecy. With each passing hour, Bloom's vibrant spirit breathed life into the hidden corners of the storage room where they had established their makeshift home. The trio forged a bond deeper than any of them anticipated, but beneath the surface of their growing camaraderie, an undercurrent of tension pulsed through their makeshift family. Every laugh they shared echoed with the weight of unspoken fears, and Max could sense the dangers lurking just outside their sanctuary. Max was up early one morning, wiping the sleep from his eyes as he prepared for another day of cleaning. He glanced at Bloom, who was still curled up on a pile of supplies, her skin shimmering in a spectrum of colors as she played with the light streaming in through the small window. "Morning, Bloom," he said softly, careful not to startle her. She looked up, her eyes bright and curious, and he smiled. "Ready for another adventure?" "Adventure," she chirped, mimicking him with a delightful enthusiasm that warmed Max's heart. Zoe entered the storage room just then, a cup of steaming coffee in hand, her hair slightly tousled. "Did I hear the word adventure?" she teased, arching an eyebrow at Bloom. "I hope you're not planning anything too reckless, Max." "Me, reckless?" "Never," he replied with mock innocence, though they both knew better. Zoe chuckled and handed Max a cup of coffee. "You look like you could use this. We have a busy day ahead." She sipped her drink, then turned to Bloom. How about we make some breakfast before we get to work? You hungry little princess? Bloom nodded eagerly, and together they rummaged through the supplies Max had managed to gather. As they prepared a simple meal of pureed nutrition packs, Max felt a flicker of normalcy in their chaotic lives. It was moments like these that reminded him of the joy he used to share with his own children. Once breakfast was finished, they sat on the floor, eating and talking about their plans for the day. Max couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger, a gnawing anxiety that tugged at him whenever he thought of Bloom's potential royal lineage. "We need to be careful," he said, setting his cup down. "If those passengers from the VIP suite are still looking for Bloom, they won't give up easily." Zoe nodded, her expression serious. "I've been thinking about that. We should devise a plan to gather more information about that couple. If they're the ones who abandoned her, they might have more ties to her past than we realize." Max felt a surge of determination. "Let's split up today. I'll check the maintenance logs to see if there have been any reports of unusual activity or suspicious passengers. You can dig into the ship's passenger manifest and see if there are any recent arrivals that match the descriptions of Bloom's guardians." With a nod, they set their plan into motion. Max took a deep breath, steeling himself for the day ahead as he prepared to leave Bloom with Zoe. "Stay close to Zoe, okay?" he instructed Bloom, crouching down to meet her eye level. "If you need anything or feel scared, just let her know. We'll be back together before you know it." Bloom nodded, her vibrant blue skin shimmering in the dim light. "Bloom, stay safe," she declared, her voice filled with innocent determination. Max felt a rush of affection for the girl, a mix of protectiveness and admiration. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, leaving her smiling. "You're brave, Bloom. Remember that." As he left the storage room, Max's mind raced with thoughts of the couple they were trying to track down. He maneuvered through the ship's corridors. Every corner turned felt like a step deeper into danger. It was one thing to clean up after the rich and powerful, but quite another to delve into their secrets. Max finally reached the ship's maintenance office, a small room filled with monitors displaying various parts of the ship's operations. He approached one of the crew members, a gruff-looking engineer named Caden. "Hey, Caden," Max greeted, trying to sound casual. "Have there been any reports of unusual activity on Deck 12? I'm just curious about the VIP suite." Caden raised an eyebrow, sensing Max's unease. "You're cleaning that suite again. They left quite the mess last time." "Yeah, well, they seem to think their money can buy cleanliness," Max replied with a chuckle, trying to ease the tension. "But seriously, have you heard anything strange?" Caden leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the desk. "I heard some whispers about a couple acting shady. They were looking for something, or someone, when they left. But you know how it is. Rich folks think they can just do what they want without consequences." Max's heart raced. What did they look like? Caden shrugged. "I don't know. Tall, dark hair, and the woman had an accent. You know, the kind that says, 'I'm rich and I can do whatever I want.'" Max felt a knot form in his stomach. He needed more information, but didn't want to raise suspicion. "Thanks, Caden. I appreciate it." As he left the maintenance office, Max's mind was already churning with possibilities. If Bloom was indeed a princess, her life would be in danger if her guardians were hunting for her. He needed to warn Zoe and come up with a plan. Meanwhile, Zoe was busy combing through the passenger manifest, her brows furrowed in concentration. She sifted through the holographic displays, searching for any anomalies. The manifest was extensive, but after several hours of digging, she found a few entries that piqued her interest. "Bingo," she whispered to herself, spotting 2 names that matched the descriptions she had gotten from Max. They were listed as having arrived just days before Bloom was found, and both had mysterious backgrounds. With a flick of her wrist, she pulled up their travel records, revealing a series of unusual routes that suggested they were not just ordinary passengers. "Who are you?" she muttered, her heart racing. She noted the connection to Orozura and a hidden royal family. The more she read, the clearer it became that they were not merely wealthy tourists. They were likely the guardians Bloom had escaped from, and they would do anything to reclaim her. As Zoe continued her investigation, a sudden commotion outside the office caught her attention. She rushed to the door, peering out into the corridor. A pair of security officers were stationed nearby, discussing something in hushed tones. Zoe's instincts kicked in, and she leaned against the wall, trying to catch snippets of their conversation. "I can't believe they got away with it," one officer said, frustration evident in his tone. "We need to find them before the captain hears about this." Zoe felt her heart race. They were searching for Bloom. She was certain of it. She quickly returned to the passenger manifest, feeling the pressure of time bearing down on her. There was no more time for hesitation. She needed to find Max and share what she had discovered. With a sense of urgency, Zoe retraced her steps, weaving through the ship's labyrinthine corridors until she reached the storage room. As she entered, her heart sank at the sight of Bloom sitting alone, her eyes wide with concern. "Where's Max?" Bloom asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zoe crouched down, forcing a smile to calm the girl. "He's just gathering some information, Bloom. We're all working together to keep you safe, okay?" Bloom nodded but looked unconvinced. Bloom not scared, but want Max. Zoe's heart ached at the child's vulnerability. "I know, and he'll be back soon, but we have to be brave, just like you." A moment later, the door slid open, and Max rushed in, breathless and agitated. "Zoe, we need to talk. I found something." "What did you learn?" Zoe asked, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite her racing heart. "There's been talk about a couple who left the VIP suite looking for someone," Max explained, his voice low. "They fit the descriptions we heard, and I think they're after Bloom." Zoe's face paled. "I heard the security officers talking. They're searching for someone, and I think it's Bloom. We need to come up with a plan to protect her." Bloom, sensing the urgency in their voices, clutched Zoe's hand tightly. "Bloom's safe, right?" she asked, her innocent eyes wide with fear. Max knelt down beside her. "Yes, Bloom, we're going to keep you safe. We just need to be smart about this." "Let's use her ability," Zoe suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. "If she can change her appearance, we can disguise her. We need to find a way to get her off the ship and to a safe place." Max nodded, a newfound determination igniting within him. "We'll have to wait for the right moment. If we act too soon, they'll catch on." As they formulated a plan, Bloom listened intently, her bright blue skin reflecting the flickering light of the room. They spoke in hushed tones, laying out each detail as they worked together to safeguard her future. The weight of the world felt heavy on their shoulders, but as long as they were united, hope flickered in the darkness. Zoe suggested they gather supplies for the escape, planning to hide Bloom's true identity until they reached a safer location. "We need food, water, and a way to conceal her until we find a suitable place to go," she said, "and we need to be quick about it." With a shared understanding, the trio set that plan into motion, each step taken with purpose. Max and Zoe exchanged glances, their resolve solidifying as they prepared to face the challenges ahead. As they set out to gather supplies, Max felt a surge of determination. He would protect Bloom at all costs, no matter the danger that awaited them. Together, they would face the unknown, drawing strength from one another in a world where trust was a fragile commodity. Bloom, with her royal heritage and extraordinary abilities, would not fall back into the hands of those who sought to control her. They were more than just a Ractor group. They were a family united by a common purpose, ready to confront whatever awaited them in the vastness of space. The escape plan. Max, Zoe, and Bloom spent the next few days gathering supplies and mapping out their escape plan. Tension filled the storage room as the weight of their mission loomed overhead. Every noise outside made them jump. Each shadow felt like a potential threat. Yet, amid the anxiety, there was a palpable sense of hope and determination. They had become a family united by their desire to protect Bloom, and ensure she never returned to those who would exploit her. One evening, as they sat in the dim light of the storage room, Bloom played with a small trinket Max had found while cleaning, a tiny alien toy shaped like a starship. Her fingers danced over the surface, and for a moment, her giggles filled the air, easing the tension. Max smiled, watching her. She was a bright light in a dark situation. "Bloom, what would you like to do when we get away?" Zoe asked, her voice gentle. Bloom paused, her blue skin shimmering with different hues as she considered the question. "Bloom want to play, explore," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Bloom want to see the stars." Max chuckled softly, but a pang of sadness washed over him. "You will, little one. We're going to find a place where you can play and be free." Zoe turned serious. "We need to focus on getting you there first, Bloom. But your spirit is what we'll protect. You'll have adventures that will make you smile." As night fell, the trio gathered around a small portable device Max had managed to scrounge up, a holographic projector displaying a layout of the galactic dream. They scrutinized the ship's schematics, highlighting potential escape routes and safe zones. "Here's the plan," Max said, tapping the screen to focus on Deck 12, where the VIP suite was located. "We'll wait until the next scheduled port stop, when most of the passengers will be off the ship. The crew will be distracted with logistics, and we can slip out undetected." "Good thinking," Zoe replied, nodding. "But we need to ensure we have everything ready to go by then. What about food and supplies?" Max gestured to a pile of provisions they had collected. "I've got some protein packs and water, but we need to be cautious. We can't draw attention to ourselves, so we'll have to ration what we have." Bloom's face fell slightly. "Bloom hungry," she said, her voice small. Max knelt down to her level. "I know, sweetheart, but just for a little while longer. Once we're out of here, we'll find you a place with food and games, I promise." Zoe smiled at Bloom, trying to lift her spirits. "And we'll find you all the starships you want to play with. How about that?" Bloom loved starships, she cheered, her excitement infectious. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Max and Zoe took turns scouting the ship, gathering intel while maintaining their cleaning duties. They learned the routines of the security staff, noting when the guards were least attentive and which areas of the ship were less monitored. One afternoon, as Max cleaned near the main atrium, he overheard a conversation that made his stomach drop. Two officers were discussing the ongoing search for Bloom's guardians. "They're getting desperate," one officer said, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "They've been asking all the crew if they've seen a girl fitting her description. If we don't find her soon, the captain will have our heads." Max's heart raced. They were closing in on Bloom. He needed to relay this information to Zoe before they ran out of time. He quickly finished his shift and made his way back to the storage room. "Zoe, we need to hurry," he said as soon as he entered. "They're ramping up the search. The officers are getting anxious, and if they don't find her soon, they'll start checking every nook and cranny of the ship." Zoe's face paled. "How soon do you think they'll start searching our area?" Max swallowed hard. "I don't know, but we can't take any chances. We need to be ready to move as soon as we reach the next port." "We should prepare a decoy," Zoe suggested, her mind racing. "Something to distract them if they come looking here." Max nodded, impressed with her quick thinking. "That's a great idea. We can use some of the supplies we have to create a dummy figure that looks like Bloom, and we'll stash her somewhere safe." As they worked together to craft the decoy, Bloom watched intently, her big eyes filled with curiosity. "What Bloom do?" she asked, her head tilted. "We're just making a friend for you," Max replied with a smile. "A special friend who will help keep you safe while we make our escape." "Bloom want to help," she said eagerly, her little hands reaching out to assist. Zoe laughed, her heart warmed by Bloom's enthusiasm. "All right, little one, you can help us make this friend. Let's make sure it's the best disguise we can manage." With Bloom's help, they fashioned a makeshift figure using discarded clothing and some soft materials they had gathered. The result was a somewhat lopsided but endearing representation of Bloom, complete with a blue blanket wrapped around it to mimic her skin. "Now, if anyone comes looking for you, they'll find this little friend instead," Max explained, placing the decoy behind some crates in the corner of the storage room. "It'll buy us some time." As the day of the port stop approached, anxiety began to creep in. They held a final meeting to go over the escape plan. "We'll leave as soon as the last passengers disembark," Max instructed, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "Zoe, you'll take Bloom while I secure our exit. We'll meet at the crew access door on the lower deck. Got it?" "Got it," Zoe replied, her voice firm. She knelt beside Bloom, holding her hands. "You ready for this, Bloom? We're going to be brave, right?" "Bloom brave," she declared, puffing out her chest in a show of confidence. Max smiled, feeling a rush of pride. "That's my girl. We're doing this together." As the day finally arrived, the atmosphere on the ship shifted. Crew members moved with purpose, preparing for the influx of passengers disembarking at the next stop. The excitement in the air made Max's heart race, but it was mixed with the fear of being caught. Max kept his eyes on the clock, counting down the minutes until their window of opportunity opened. "It's almost time," he whispered, glancing at Zoe and Bloom. Bloom looked up at them, her wide eyes filled with anticipation. "Bloom ready. Let's go." Max's heart swelled. "Okay, it's now or never." As the ship slowed and the docking procedures began, they took their positions. Zoe held Bloom close, reassuring her with gentle words, while Max positioned himself by the exit. "Remember, stick together. And if something goes wrong, find a way to hide," Max reminded them. With a deep breath, they stepped into the hallway, blending in with the throngs of passengers excitedly heading out to explore the port. Max's heart raced as he scanned the area, watching for any signs of trouble. The trio moved swiftly but discreetly, weaving through the crowd. The bustling passengers were oblivious to the high-stakes game being played just beneath the surface. Almost there, Max whispered, his eyes locked on the crew access door at the end of the hall. They had just a few more steps to go when, out of the corner of his eye, he spotted a familiar figure, a tall man with dark hair and a confident stride, flanked by two others. They were unmistakably the couple from the VIP suite. Max's heart dropped. "They're here," he murmured to Zoe. Zoe's eyes widened as she realized the danger. "We need to move now." Without hesitating, Max grabbed Bloom's hand, pulling her close as they quickened their pace. "Stay behind us, Bloom," he urged. The couple was moving in their direction, and Max felt the urgency heighten with every step. They reached the door, and with a swift glance back, Max pushed it open, ushering Zoe and Bloom inside just as the couple turned to look. "Go," Zoe urged, and they dashed down the dimly lit corridor, their breaths quickening with fear. The passageway was narrow, but it led them deeper into the ship's service areas, where the hum of machinery masked their footsteps. They kept moving, hearts pounding as they searched for a way out. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed down the corridor. "Stop right there. We know you're hiding her." Max felt panic surge within him. "Run," he shouted, pushing Bloom and Zoe ahead as they sprinted down the hall. They rounded a corner, and Max caught sight of an emergency exit sign glowing dimly at the end of another passageway. "This way," he yelled, leading them toward the exit. As they reached the door, Max fumbled with the handle, his hands shaking with adrenaline. Come on, come on." The door swung open, and they spilled out into the open air, the light of the port dazzling off of the darkness of the ship. They were on a narrow dock, and the sounds of bustling activity surrounded them. Max scanned the area, desperately searching for a hiding place. "We need to blend in," he urged, his voice urgent. Zoe glanced around, spotting a nearby vendor stall. "Over there," she pointed, and they dashed toward it, ducking behind the colorful awnings just as a group of security officers exited the ship behind them. Max held his breath, praying they wouldn't be seen. The officers moved past them, their voices growing distant as they searched for Bloom. As they huddled together behind the stall, Bloom looked up at Max, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "Bloom's scared," she admitted softly. Max wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "I know, but we're safe for now. Just a little longer." After what felt like an eternity, the officers moved on, and Max exhaled in relief. "Okay, we need to keep moving. We can't stay here." "Where do we go?" Zoe asked, her voice low. Max scanned the bustling port, full of people coming and going. "We need to find a ship. A small one, something that can take us far away from here." They crept out from behind the stall and began to navigate through the crowds, staying low and moving quickly. Bloom clung to Zoe's hand, her small fingers wrapping tightly around the older girl's. As they moved deeper into the port, they spotted a small shuttle, its engines idling softly. Max approached the ship cautiously, eyeing the pilot, a grizzled old man who looked like he'd seen more than his fair share of trouble. "Hey there," Max called out, trying to sound casual. "How much for a ride to the nearest planet?" The pilot raised an eyebrow, assessing Max and his companions. "Depends. What's your story?" "Just trying to escape the chaos," Max replied, hoping to seem nonchalant. The pilot looked from Max to Zoe and Bloom, his expression softening as he recognized the fear in their eyes. "All right, hop on. But if the law comes asking, I don't know you." "Thank you," Max said, relief washing over him as they hurried aboard. Once inside, Max quickly secured the door, locking them in as the pilot prepared for takeoff. "Hold on tight," he warned, and with a roar, the engines fired up. As the shuttle lifted off, Max took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of fear and exhilaration. They were finally free, leaving the galactic dream and the danger behind. Bloom's eyes sparkled with wonder as she peered out the small window, watching the port shrink away. "Bloom fly," she exclaimed, her spirit unbroken despite the chaos they had just escaped. "Yes, you are flying, Bloom," Zoe said, grinning at her. As they soared into the vastness of space, Max couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of their journey. They were no longer just an Earthling, a stewardess, and an alien girl. They were a family united by their fight for freedom, ready to face whatever awaited them among the stars. The new horizon. The shuttle hummed with energy as it soared away from the galactic dream, leaving behind the memories of danger and uncertainty. Max sat beside Bloom, who was wide-eyed with wonder, her small fingers pressed against the viewport as she watched the stars streak by. Zoe occupied the pilot's seat, glancing back at them with a mix of concern and excitement. "Where are we going, Max?" Bloom asked, her voice tinged with both curiosity and a hint of fear. Max ruffled her hair affectionately, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. "We're heading to a safe place, Bloom. Somewhere where you can be free and happy." Zoe chimed in, her voice brightening the atmosphere. "And where we can figure out what to do next. Maybe we can find a new home for you, where you can play and explore to your heart's content." Bloom's eyes sparkled at the thought, her imagination igniting. Bloom wanted to see gardens, and flowers, and lots of toys. Max chuckled, his heart swelling at her innocence. "You'll have all that and more, I promise. But first, we need to lay low for a bit and make sure it's safe." The pilot of the shuttle, a rugged man named Jax, had been unusually quiet since they boarded. He glanced back at them now, his expression unreadable. "I can take you to a small outpost on the planet Meridia. It's quiet there, and not too many people ask questions." "Sounds perfect," Max replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "Thank you, Jax." As the shuttle cruised through the vastness of space, the tension of their previous encounters began to fade. Bloom kept her gaze fixed on the stars, her earlier fears forgotten as she marveled at the beauty around her. Max and Zoe exchanged glances, both relieved to see the little girl smiling again. Hours passed, the stars twinkling like distant diamonds, and the vast emptiness of space surrounded them. Max tried to focus on the destination, but found his mind wandering to what awaited them on Meridia. Would they truly be safe? Would they find a place where Bloom could grow up without fear? Suddenly, the shuttle jolted, and Max gripped the armrest tightly. "What was that?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Just some turbulence," Jax replied nonchalantly. "We'll be through it in a moment." But moments later, another jolt rocked the shuttle, and warning lights flashed on the control panel. "We've got company," Jax said, his tone shifting to serious as he began tapping commands into the controls. "What do you mean?" Zoe asked, her voice laced with alarm. "Pirates," Jax said tersely. "They're trying to board us." Max's heart raced. "Can we outrun them?" "Not without some maneuvering," Jax replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. "Hold on." The shuttle veered sharply, the engines roaring as Jax skillfully piloted them away from the pursuing ships. The sound of gunfire echoed through the cabin as the pirates attempted to disable their vessel. "Zoe, keep Bloom safe," Max shouted, instinctively moving to brace himself against the wall as the shuttle bucked violently. Zoe's eyes widened in fear, but she quickly wrapped her arms around Bloom, holding her close as the shuttle swayed. "It's okay, Bloom. We're going to be okay." Max felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he took a moment to assess their situation. He turned to Jax, who was focused intently on the controls. "What can we do?" "We need to lose them in the asteroid field ahead," Jax replied, determination etched across his face. "It's risky, but it's our best shot." Max swallowed hard, knowing that this was their only option. "Do it. Just get us out of here." Jax nodded, and with a sudden burst of speed, the shuttle hurtled toward the asteroid field, the chaotic dance of massive rocks and debris looming ahead. "Hold on tight," he shouted as they entered the field, navigating through the obstacles with remarkable agility. The shuttle bucked and swerved, narrowly avoiding collisions as the pirates followed close behind. Max's heart raced as he glanced back at Bloom. She was trembling, her face pressed against Zoe's shoulder. "Bloom scared," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the chaos. "I know, sweetheart," Max said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "But we're going to get through this. Just stay close to Zoe." They weaved through the asteroid field, the shuttle shaking violently as it dodged larger rocks. Jax's skillful piloting was put to the test, and Max could feel a tension in the air as they navigated the treacherous terrain. "Just a little further," Jax shouted, his focus unbroken as he deftly maneuvered the shuttle. "If we can just make it to the other side." The sound of gunfire echoed again, and Max winced as the shuttle jolted violently. "Jax," he shouted, panic rising in his chest. "Are we going to make it?" "We have to," Jax replied, gritting his teeth as he pushed the shuttle to its limits. Suddenly, a massive asteroid loomed in front of them, and Jax swerved sharply to the right. The shuttle screeched as they barely missed a collision, but the force of the turn sent Bloom tumbling from Zoe's grasp. "Bloom!" Zoe screamed, reaching for her. Max acted on instinct, lunging forward to grab the girl just as she began to slide away. He scooped her into his arms, holding her tightly against him as they braced for impact. "Hang on," Jax shouted, his voice full of urgency as he pushed the shuttle to its maximum speed. They could hear the pirates cursing behind them, their pursuit relentless. The shuttle careened through the asteroid field, dodging and weaving as Jax fought to maintain control. Max clutched Bloom tightly, his heart pounding in his chest as he felt the weight of responsibility press down on him. He had promised to protect her, and he would do everything in his power to keep her safe. With a final surge of speed, the shuttle burst through the asteroid field, and Max breathed a sigh of relief as they emerged into open space. But their relief was short-lived. The pirate ships were still on their tail, and they had to think quickly. "Where do we go?" Zoe asked, her voice trembling with fear. "There's a small moon up ahead," Jax replied, glancing at the navigational readout. "We can try to land there and hide until the pirates give up." "Let's do it," Max said, his voice steady. "We can't let them catch us now." Jax steered the shuttle toward the moon, the surface rocky and barren. As they approached, Max could see the shadows of the pirate ships looming behind them, closing the distance rapidly. "Prepare for landing," Jax shouted, his hands working the controls with precision. The shuttle touched down roughly on the moon's surface, the engines sputtering before falling silent. Max's heart raced as they quickly unbuckled themselves, adrenaline surging through his veins. "Let's move," he commanded, glancing at Bloom. "We have to get out and find a place to hide." Zoe nodded, her face set with determination. "This way." She led the way down the ramp, Bloom clutching her hand tightly. As they stepped onto the moon's surface, the stark contrast of the barren landscape surrounded them. Dust swirled in the low gravity, making it difficult to see. They needed to find cover quickly. "Over there," Zoe pointed to a cluster of large rocks nearby. "We can hide there." They dashed toward the rocks, Max glancing over his shoulder as they reached their makeshift shelter. The sound of the pirate ships grew louder, and his stomach tightened with anxiety. "We need to be quiet," he whispered urgently. "Stay close to me." Bloom nodded, her eyes wide as they crouched behind the rocks. Max could feel her trembling, and he wrapped an arm around her protectively. "You're safe, Bloom. We're just going to wait here for a little while, okay?" "Bloom want to go home," she said softly, her voice tinged with fear. Max felt a pang of sadness for her innocence. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to make a new home together, I promise." As they waited, the sound of the pirate ships echoed above them, searching the area. Max held his breath, praying they wouldn't spot their shuttle. "We need to figure out a way to disable their ships," Jax said quietly, his voice low. "If we can buy ourselves some time, we might be able to escape." Max nodded, a plan forming in his mind. "What if we set up a diversion, something that will draw their attention away from us?" Zoe's eyes brightened. "I can use some of the supplies we gathered to create a makeshift explosive. If we can set it up a distance from our hiding spot, it might give us the chance we need." "Let's do it," Max replied, adrenaline surging through him again. "Bloom, you need to stay here and be very quiet. Can you do that?" "Bloom, stay quiet," she promised, her small face serious. Max and Zoe exchanged a determined glance before moving to gather the supplies they would need. As they worked, Max couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. They needed to act fast before the pirates figured out they were still on the moon. Once they had prepared the makeshift explosive, Max and Zoe moved a safe distance away from their hiding spot. Max glanced back at Bloom, who was watching them with wide, trusting eyes. "We'll be right back, I promise," he assured her. "Bloom, wait," she said, her small voice filled with determination. Together, Max and Zoe placed the explosive carefully, ensuring it was positioned to maximize the distraction. "This should do it," Zoe said, her eyes gleaming with excitement and fear. "Okay, on the count of 3, Max instructed, his heart racing. 1, 2, 3. Zoe activated the device, and a loud explosion echoed in the distance, sending a plume of smoke into the air. "Let's go," Max shouted, racing back toward the rocks. They returned to their hiding spot just as the pirate ships began to veer off in the direction of the explosion. Max felt a rush of relief wash over him, but they couldn't let their guard down just yet. As the ship started away, Max turned to Zoe, who was catching her breath. "This is our chance. We need to get Bloom and find a way off this moon." They scrambled back to where Bloom was hiding, and Max knelt beside her, wrapping her in his arms. "Bloom, it's time to go. We have to move quickly." Bloom nodded, her expression serious as she clung to him. With a renewed sense of purpose, they began to navigate through the rocky terrain, moving away from the chaos of the explosion. The moon's surface was rugged, and they had to watch their step as they picked their way through the debris. "Where do we go now?" Zoe asked, scanning the area for any signs of safety. "There's a small shuttle docking bay on the other side of the moon," Max replied, his mind racing. "If we can reach it, we might find a ship that can take us off this rock." They pressed onward, the sound of the pirate ship still echoing in the distance, but gradually fading. Max felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He had to protect Bloom, no matter what it took. As they approached the docking bay, Max spotted a small ship docked at the end of the platform. It was old and battered, but it looked like it could still fly. "There. That's our ticket out of here," he exclaimed, pointing. They rushed toward the ship, adrenaline propelling them forward. Max's heart raced as they reached the entrance, and he quickly activated the door. The ship's interior was dim and dusty, but it looked functional. "Come on, let's get inside," he urged, ushering Zoe and Bloom inside. Once inside, Max quickly scanned the controls, his fingers flying over the buttons. "I'll need to get the systems online," he said, focusing intently. Zoe strapped Bloom into a seat, her voice calm and reassuring. "You're doing great, Bloom. Just hold tight for a moment." Max worked quickly, his heart pounding in his chest as he initiated the startup sequence. Come on," he muttered under his breath. With a loud whirring sound, the systems began to boot up, and Max felt a surge of hope. "Yes, we're in business." "Can we take off now?" Zoe asked, glancing nervously at the door. "Just about," Max replied, feeling a rush of determination. "We need to get away before they come back." As the last systems activated, Max glanced at Bloom. "Are you ready to fly, Bloom?" "Bloom ready," she declared, her face lighting up with excitement. Max's heart swelled at her enthusiasm. "Okay, here we go." He engaged the thrusters, and the ship shuddered as it lifted off the ground. The landscape of the moon began to fade beneath them, and the stars beckoned once more. As they ascended, Max felt a sense of triumph surge through him. They had escaped the pirates, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he dared to hope for a brighter future. "Where do we go now?" Zoe asked, her voice filled with excitement and apprehension. "Let's find a safe planet," Max replied, his eyes scanning the navigation charts. "Somewhere we can lay low and figure out our next move." As they flew through the vastness of space, Bloom pressed her face against the viewport, mesmerized by the stars. "Bloom loved flying," she exclaimed, her laughter filling the cabin. Max and Zoe exchanged smiles, their hearts lightening as they watched her. For all the danger they had faced, this moment felt like a victory. The stars stretched infinitely ahead of them, and with each passing moment, they ventured further into the unknown. They were no longer running from danger. They were flying toward a new horizon filled with possibility. And for the first time in a long time, Max felt a glimmer of hope. They were alive, together, and ready to embrace whatever awaited them among the stars. Finding sanctuary. The stars blinked like distant lanterns as the battered shuttle glided through the cosmos, its engines humming a reassuring melody. Max sat in the pilot's seat, a steady hand on the controls, while Zoe and Bloom settled into the seats behind him. Despite the chaos they had narrowly escaped, a newfound sense of freedom filled the cabin, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. "Where are we going now, Max?" Bloom asked, her voice filled with wonder as she gazed out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars. Max glanced at the navigation console, where various planetary systems flickered on the display. "I'm looking for a safe place, somewhere we can rest and regroup," he replied, feeling a surge of determination. "Let's find a planet where we can lay low for a while." "Do you think the pirates will find us?" Zoe asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Not if we keep moving," Max assured her, though a nagging doubt lingered in his mind. The encounter with the pirates had been a harsh reminder of the dangers still lurking in the galaxy. "We just need to pick a planet that isn't too populated, one that doesn't attract too much attention." After a few moments of scanning the star map, Max's eyes landed on a small green planet called Viridian. "This looks promising," he said, pointing at the screen. "It's mostly uninhabited, with vast forests and some small settlements. We can hide there and figure out our next steps." "Viridian it is," Zoe said, her voice filled with excitement. "Let's go." With a decisive nod, Max plotted a course, and the ship's engines roared to life, propelling them toward their new destination. As the ship surged forward, Bloom pressed her face against the viewport, her eyes sparkling with awe. "Bloom loved trees," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. The journey to Viridian took several hours, the shuttle cutting through the star-studded void. During the flight, Max and Zoe took turns monitoring the controls and keeping Bloom entertained. They shared stories of their lives, painting vivid pictures of their pasts to distract Bloom from the uncertainty of their future. "Tell me more about Earth, Max," Bloom urged, her curiosity insatiable. "What are flowers like?" Max smiled, grateful for her enthusiasm. "Well, Earth has all kinds of flowers, Bloom. Some are bright red, like the roses, and others are sunny yellow, like daisies. They come in all shapes and sizes." "What about the animals?" she asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. Zoe leaned in, eager to contribute. "Oh, there are so many animals. There are fluffy ones, like rabbits, and big ones, like elephants. Some can fly, like birds, and some swim, like fish." "Bloom want to see them all," she declared, her voice bubbling with excitement. Max chuckled, feeling his heart warm at Bloom's enthusiasm. "You will, I promise. Once we find a safe place, we'll explore all the wonders of the universe together." The ship continued its journey, and as they approached Viridian, the planet's lush green landscapes and sprawling forests came into view. "There it is," Max announced, pointing at the beautiful sight below. Bloom squealed with delight as she watched the trees grow larger and larger. "Bloom see trees," she cheered, clapping her hands in excitement. Max's heart swelled with hope as he guided the shuttle toward a secluded area on the outskirts of a forest. "Let's find a safe place to land," he said, scanning the terrain for a suitable spot. After a brief search, he spotted a clearing surrounded by tall trees. "This looks perfect," he said, maneuvering the ship down toward the ground. The shuttle touched down gently, and they all exhaled in relief. "Welcome to Viridian," Max declared, a smile breaking across his face as he powered down the engines. Zoe unbuckled her seatbelt and turned to Bloom. "Are you ready for an adventure?" "Bloom ready," she shouted, her energy boundless. As they disembarked from the shuttle, Max felt a rush of exhilaration. The air was fresh and fragrant, filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting playful shadows on the ground. "Look at all the trees," Bloom exclaimed, her eyes wide as she took in her surroundings. She darted ahead, her laughter ringing through the clearing as she twirled around, embracing the beauty of nature. Max and Zoe shared a smile, their hearts lightening in the tranquil atmosphere. "We should find some shelter and get organized," Zoe suggested, her practical nature coming to the forefront. "We don't want to attract any attention." "Agreed," Max replied, watching Bloom explore with unbridled joy. "Let's find a safe place to set up camp." They ventured deeper into the forest, navigating through the dense underbrush. The trees were tall and majestic, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. After a short hike, they stumbled upon a small cave tucked beneath a rocky outcrop. "This will do nicely," Max said, peering inside. The cave was spacious enough to accommodate all of them, and the cool air provided a welcome relief from the warmth outside. Zoe nodded, surveying the area. "It's secluded, and the entrance is well hidden. Perfect for laying low." As they settled in, Max took stock of their supplies. "We need to ration our food and plan how we're going to sustain ourselves here," he said, laying out the remaining protein packs and water. Zoe knelt beside him, examining the provisions. "We'll need to gather more supplies. I can forage for edible plants and berries. Bloom, can you help me?" "Bloom help," she replied enthusiastically, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Just stay close to Zoe and be careful, okay?" Max instructed, his protective instincts kicking in. "Bloom, be careful," she promised, bounding towards Zoe. As Zoe led Bloom into the forest to gather supplies, Max took a moment to reflect on their situation. They had escaped the clutches of the pirates, but the journey ahead was still fraught with uncertainty. They needed to establish a plan for the future, one that would ensure Bloom's safety and their own survival. After a short while, Max heard laughter echoing through the trees, and a smile broke across his face. He felt grateful that, despite the circumstances, Bloom was able to find joy in this new world. "Look what we found," Zoe exclaimed as they returned, holding a handful of bright berries and a few wild herbs. "These should be safe to eat." Bloom jumped up and down, her energy contagious. Bloom loved berries. Max laughed, watching the two of them. "Great job, you two. Let's have a feast." They gathered around a small fire, which Max had managed to start with some dry twigs and leaves. As the flames flickered, they prepared their simple meal, savoring the taste of the fresh berries and the warmth of companionship. After their meal, they sat in a comfortable silence, gazing at the stars as they appeared one by one in the evening sky. Max felt a sense of peace envelop them, as if the universe was welcoming them into its vast embrace. "Do you think we'll ever find a permanent home?" Zoe asked quietly, breaking the silence. Max sighed, looking up at the stars. "I hope so. But for now, we need to focus on keeping Bloom safe and figuring out our next move." Zoe nodded, her expression thoughtful. "We can't stay here forever. Eventually, we'll need to find a way to contact others, maybe even reach out to the galactic authorities for help." "I agree," Max replied, "but we have to be cautious. We don't know who we can trust." "Bloom want to explore." Bloom interrupted, her voice filled with excitement. "Bloom want to see everything." Max chuckled, ruffling her hair. "We will, little explorer, just not right now. We need to make sure we're safe first." As the night wore on, they shared stories and laughter, the bond between them growing stronger with each passing moment. Despite the challenges that lay ahead, they were determined to face whatever came their way together. As dawn broke over Viridian, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Max awoke to the sound of chirping birds and the rustling of leaves. He stretched, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Time to get to work," he murmured to himself, ready to start the day. After a quick breakfast of foraged berries and some water, they began to formulate a plan. Max and Zoe discussed strategies for gathering more supplies and finding a secure way to communicate with the outside world. "We should set up a perimeter," Max suggested. "If we create some barriers around the cave, we can keep an eye out for any potential threats." Zoe nodded in agreement. "And I can keep searching for more food. We should also scout the area to see if there are any nearby settlements where we could gather more supplies or find a way to get off the planet." "Good thinking," Max replied, feeling grateful for Zoe's practicality. "Let's get to it." They spent the morning working together, setting up makeshift barriers using fallen branches and brush to create a secure perimeter around the cave entrance. With each effort, Max felt a growing sense of accomplishment, knowing they were taking steps to protect Bloom and ensure their survival. As they finished, Bloom wandered off a short distance, her curiosity getting the better of her. Max caught her just in time, gently guiding her back to the cave. "Stay close, Bloom. We don't want to lose you." "Bloom want to help," she protested, her eyes shining with determination. "I know, but we need to be careful," Max said, kneeling to meet her gaze. "We'll have plenty of time to explore once we're safe." Bloom nodded reluctantly, and together they returned to their work, each contributing to their new life on Viridian. In the days that followed, they fell into a routine. Zoe foraged for food while Max built up their defenses, and Bloom entertained herself by gathering colorful stones and playing in the nearby streams. They grew accustomed to their secluded life, learning to appreciate the beauty of their surroundings and the peace that came with it. But even as they settled into their new home, Max couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the back of his mind. He knew the pirates were still out there, and the danger was far from over. One afternoon, while Zoe was out gathering supplies, Max decided it was time to explore a little further into the forest. He wanted to get a sense of their surroundings and see if there were any signs of civilization nearby. "Stay close to the cave, Bloom," he instructed as he donned his improvised gear. "I'll be back soon." "Bloom, stay," she promised, her small hands gripping a handful of colorful stones. With a final glance back, Max ventured into the woods, feeling the cool earth beneath his feet and the rustling leaves overhead. He moved cautiously, listening for any signs of life as he ventured deeper into the lush greenery. As he walked, he noticed the vibrant flora and fauna surrounding him. Strange, luminescent flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blossoms. Suddenly, he heard the sound of laughter, a distant, joyous sound that sent a wave of curiosity through him. Following the sound, he pushed through a thicket of bushes and stumbled upon a small clearing. To his surprise, he found a group of children playing in the sunlight, their laughter ringing through the air like music. They were from a nearby settlement, their skin varying in shades of green and brown, and they seemed to be enjoying a game of tag. Max watched, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. These children were a reminder of what Bloom could have, a sense of belonging and community. But he also knew that approaching them could be dangerous, given their current circumstances. Just as he was about to turn back, one of the children spotted him. "Who are you?" a boy called out, his voice curious but wary. Max raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm just a traveler," he said, trying to sound friendly. "I'm exploring the area." The children exchanged glances, their expressions cautious but intrigued. "Come play with us," another girl shouted, her bright eyes inviting him to join. Max hesitated, glancing back toward the cave where Bloom waited. "I'm afraid I can't. I have someone with me." "Someone?" the first boy repeated, his interest piqued. "Is it a pet?" "No, it's a little girl," Max explained. "She's my friend." "Is she like us?" the girl asked, tilting her head curiously. Max smiled, appreciating their innocence. "Not exactly, but she's very special. I need to get back to her now, but thank you for inviting me." As he turned to leave, he felt a pang of longing for the life Bloom could have among others her age. It was a fleeting glimpse of a future he desperately hoped to provide for her. "Will you come back?" the boy asked, his voice earnest. Max paused, glancing back at the children. "I will," he promised. "I'll come back to play." With that, he made his way back to the cave, his mind racing with thoughts. He would have to discuss this new development with Zoe. If they could build a connection with a nearby settlement, it could mean access to supplies and potentially a safe haven. When he returned to the cave, Bloom was sitting at the entrance, her fingers covered in dirt as she played with her colorful stones. She looked up, her face lighting up with excitement. "Bloom, see you." "Did you miss me?" Max asked, kneeling beside her. "Yes," she exclaimed, her voice brimming with joy. Bloom found pretty stones. Max smiled, admiring the treasures she had collected. "Those are beautiful, Bloom. Let's keep them safe." Zoe returned shortly after, her arms laden with fresh berries and herbs. "Guess what I found?" she said, grinning as she entered the cave. "Bloom, want to help?" Bloom shouted, jumping to her feet. "Of course you can help," Zoe replied, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Together we can make a feast tonight." Max's heart warmed as he watched them, feeling a sense of belonging that had eluded him for so long. They were more than just survivors. They were a family bound by love and hope. As they gathered around the fire that evening, sharing stories and laughter, Max couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something new. Viridian was more than just a hiding place. It could be the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. With determination in his heart, Max resolved to explore the potential of the nearby settlement. They needed allies, and if they could forge a connection, perhaps they could finally find a true home where Bloom could thrive. As the stars twinkled above them, Max felt a sense of hope filling the air. They were no longer just running from danger. They were ready to embrace whatever awaited them in this vast, beautiful universe, together.